Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of the English Hour. I'm your host, Sophia, and today, we've got a fantastic guest with us, Jacob, who's here to talk about overcoming challenges and how we can all keep pushing through tough times. Jacob, it's great to have you back.
Thanks, Sophia. It's always a pleasure to be here, especially when we're diving into such an important topic. Overcoming challenges is something that resonates with everyone, and I'm excited to discuss it.
Definitely, life is full of challenges, and how we deal with them really shapes who we are. So, Jacob, tell us what's been one of the biggest challenges you've faced in your journey so far.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think one of the biggest challenges for me was navigating a period of self-doubt early on in my career. I had these big goals, but I kept questioning whether I was good enough to achieve them. It was a tough time because I felt like I wasn't making the progress I wanted. But looking back, it was an important experience that taught me a lot about resilience.
I can totally relate to that. Self-doubt is something that can sneak in at the most unexpected times. But it's great that you turned that experience into a lesson. How did you push through that self-doubt and keep moving forward?
Well, I'll be honest, it wasn't easy. At first, I tried to push through it alone, but I realized I needed support. I reached out to mentors, people who had already been through similar struggles, and their advice really helped me put things into perspective. It was a combination of getting outside perspective and just taking small steps every day that helped me move forward.
That's such an important point. Sometimes we get so caught up in our own heads. We forget that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, but a strength. And those small steps, sometimes they're the most powerful way to build momentum.
Exactly. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the big picture, but when you break it down into smaller, manageable tasks, it becomes less intimidating. I also learned to celebrate the small wins along the way. It keeps you motivated and reminds you that progress is progress, no matter how small.
I love that. Celebrating small wins is such a great way to stay positive and keep yourself going. It's easy to overlook those moments, but they really add up over time.
Yeah. And I think it's also about changing the way you see failure. For me, failure used to feel like the end of the road, but over time, I've come to see it as part of the process. If you're not failing, you're probably not pushing yourself enough.
That's such a healthy way to view failure. It's not a dead end, it's a lesson. And when you start seeing failure as a stepping stone, it's a lot easier to keep moving forward.
Exactly. And I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, especially when they first start out. The fear of failure can hold you back from even trying. But if you can shift your mindset and embrace the idea that failure is just another part of growth, it becomes a lot easier to take risks and try new things.
It's so true. The fear of failure can paralyze us, but it's a natural part of the journey. I think the key is to not let it define you. Just because you fail doesn't mean you're a failure. It's just an opportunity to learn and improve.
And one of the other things that helped me push through those tough times was focusing on my why. When you remind yourself of why you started in the first place, it gives you that extra drive to keep going even when things get tough.
That's so powerful. When you connect with your deeper purpose, it can really fuel you during the hardest times. And, honestly, that's something that helps so many of us stay focused when the going gets tough.
Yeah, and it's also about being kind to yourself during those times. There were moments when I felt like giving up, but I had to remind myself that setbacks are normal, and it's okay to take a break and reset. It doesn't mean you're failing, it just means you're human.
That's such a good reminder. We often think we need to keep pushing at all costs, but sometimes, the best thing we can do for ourselves is to take a step back and rest. It's not about being perfect all the time. It's about being consistent and taking care of yourself along the way.
Exactly. And another thing I've learned is the importance of resilience. Life's challenges aren't always going to be fair or easy, but it's how we respond that matters. Resilience is what helps us bounce back after setbacks and keep moving forward.
That's so true. Resilience is the difference between giving up and pushing through. It's about picking yourself up after a fall, learning from it, and coming back stronger.
And one thing that's helped me build resilience is surrounding myself with positive influences. Whether it's friends, family, or colleagues, having people who uplift you can make a huge difference when times are tough.
Absolutely. The people you surround yourself with can either lift you up or bring you down. Positive support is crucial during challenging times. Sometimes, all it takes is a word of encouragement or a reminder that you're not alone.
Exactly. And when you've got a support system, it's easier to stay resilient. You don't have to go through challenges alone.
Definitely. It's so important to lean on those around you. And I think that's something we can all work on building, that strong network of support. Whether it's family, friends, or mentors, having people who believe in you can make all the difference.
For sure, it's about creating a team of people who have your back and who encourage you to keep going, even when the road gets tough.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. Resilience, support, and a clear sense of purpose, those are the things that help us keep going when the going gets tough. Thank you so much for sharing all of this today, Jacob. Your insights are always so valuable. And I know our listeners are going to walk away from this episode feeling inspired to push through their own challenges.
Thank you, Sophia. It's always great to have these deep conversations with you. I hope everyone listening feels a little more equipped to face their own struggles and remember that they can overcome anything.
Absolutely. To our listeners, no matter what challenges you're facing right now, remember that you are stronger than you think. Keep going, stay resilient, and don't forget to lean on your support system when you need it. Before we wrap up completely, Jacob, is there any final piece of advice you'd like to share with our listeners today?
That's a great question, Sophia. I think the most important thing I can share is this: don't be afraid to take risks, even if they seem scary. Sometimes stepping outside of your comfort zone is where the real growth happens. And trust me, there's no greater feeling than proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought possible.
I absolutely love that. Growth happens outside of the comfort zone, and though it's tough, that's where the magic is. Thank you for that, Jacob. I think our listeners can definitely use that advice to fuel their next step forward.
It's my pleasure. And to anyone out there feeling unsure, just remember you've already got everything you need to succeed inside of you. It's about finding that belief and going after it step by step.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You've really brought a lot of perspective today, Jacob. And I'm sure our listeners are feeling more motivated and ready to take on their own challenges.
I hope so. We all have our own paths to walk, but sharing these stories and experiences can help us feel less alone on the journey. And at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
Exactly. So, to all our listeners, remember challenges are part of the journey, not the end of the road. With resilience, support, and purpose, you can face whatever comes your way. And don't forget that you're never alone. Reach out for support when you need it. Before we wrap up today's episode, Jacob, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to keep that momentum going after a tough challenge. Sometimes, it's easy to feel like we're back at square one after a setback. What advice do you have for maintaining momentum?
That's such a great question, Sophia. I think the key is to recognize that momentum is something that builds gradually. After a setback, the first thing you need to do is acknowledge how far you've come, even if it doesn't feel like much. Every step counts. Even if you feel like you're starting over, you're actually just continuing from where you left off, just with a little more wisdom.
I love that perspective. It's like we're all constantly evolving. So even when it feels like a fresh start, you're building on everything you've learned.
Exactly. It's about maintaining that positive mindset. I always try to remind myself that progress isn't always linear. Some days will feel like setbacks, but they're part of the process. The important thing is to not let those moments define you. Get back up and keep moving forward, even if it's just one small step.
That's such a great reminder. It's so easy to get discouraged when things don't go as planned. But like you said, it's all part of the journey. Small steps can lead to big changes over time.
Definitely. And I think that's why consistency is so important. If you can keep showing up, even on the tough days, you'll eventually see the results. It's like planting a seed. You might not see growth immediately, but over time, with care and patience, it'll flourish.
That's such a beautiful analogy. And when you've been consistent, even the smallest growth feels like a huge win.
Absolutely. It's all about focusing on the process, not just the end result. If you can learn to enjoy the journey, even the challenges, you'll find that you're more resilient and motivated to keep going, no matter what.
I couldn't agree more. When we learn to appreciate the process, the destination becomes that much sweeter. And I think that's a great way to approach not just challenges but life in general.
Definitely. Life is full of ups and downs, but how we handle those moments determines how far we'll go. Embrace the challenges and keep pushing forward. Every step is progress, and that's something to celebrate.
Well said. And with that, I think we've wrapped up another incredible conversation. Jacob, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. You've given us so much to think about when it comes to resilience, growth, and keeping momentum alive.
Thanks, Sophia. It's always great to chat with you, and I hope our conversation helps anyone out there who might be facing their own challenges.
I'm sure it will. To all of our listeners, remember you're capable of more than you think. Challenges will come, but you have the strength to face them. Keep going, one step at a time, and celebrate your progress along the way. Jacob, before we wrap up fully, I have one last question for you. As we all know, life isn't always a smooth ride. Sometimes, things can get overwhelming. How do you personally handle moments when everything feels too much to handle?
Wow, that's a heavy one, but I love it. Honestly, when I feel overwhelmed, the first thing I do is take a step back and breathe. I remind myself that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's a natural part of life. Then, I break things down into smaller, more manageable pieces. I think the trick is not to let the weight of everything crush you, but to tackle things one by one.
That's such a healthy approach, Jacob. It's so easy to get consumed by everything on our plate. But breaking it down into smaller tasks can make it feel so much more doable. Do you have any techniques you use to stay grounded in those moments?
Absolutely. One of my favorite techniques is journaling. Whenever I feel like things are piling up, I take a few minutes to write down what's on my mind. Just getting those thoughts out of my head and onto paper can really help clear my mind. Plus, I try to focus on gratitude. Taking a moment to recognize the things I'm grateful for can shift my mindset from stress to appreciation.
That's so powerful. Journaling is such a great tool for mental clarity, and focusing on gratitude really helps put things into perspective. It's easy to get caught up in the chaos, but pausing for a moment of reflection can be a game changer.
Exactly. I think it's about finding those little moments of peace throughout the day. And when things feel heavy, remind yourself that it's okay to take a break and recharge. Sometimes, stepping away for a moment can give you the clarity you need to come back stronger.
Yes, it's like when you push the reset button, it gives you the chance to return with a fresh perspective and renewed energy. Sometimes, we feel like we have to keep pushing, but rest is just as important for growth.
Absolutely. Rest isn't a sign of weakness, it's a necessary part of the process. Without it, we burn out. And when you come back from a restful moment, you're better equipped to handle what's in front of you.
Such a valuable reminder. It's so easy to forget how important rest is, but without it, we're not giving ourselves the chance to be our best selves. Thanks for sharing that. Jacob, it's something everyone can benefit from.
Anytime, Sophia, it's all about balance, and taking care of yourself is the foundation of everything else. I think a lot of people forget that, especially when they're trying to juggle so many things at once.
It's true, Jacob. We often feel like we need to be constantly moving, but slowing down can actually make us more productive and focused. That balance is so important for staying grounded and focused on what really matters.
Couldn't agree more. If we're constantly running without stopping to rest, we'll eventually lose steam. But when we take care of ourselves, we're able to keep going and accomplish even more in the long run.
You're absolutely right. And I think our listeners will definitely take away something important from this conversation today. Taking care of yourself isn't selfish, it's essential for maintaining energy, focus, and productivity.
Exactly. It's about making sure you're in the best shape mentally and physically to tackle the challenges ahead. And when you do that, you'll be able to show up for others in the best way possible, too.
That's such a great point. Being at our best helps us support others, and in turn, we create a better environment for everyone. It's all interconnected.
It really is. And that's why it's so important to give yourself permission to rest, recharge, and focus on what truly matters. Everything else will fall into place once you've done that.
Well said, Jacob. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you today. You've given us so much to think about when it comes to balancing self-care, growth, and resilience.
Thank you, Sophia. It's been a great conversation. I hope our listeners take something positive from today's episode and remember to be kind to themselves on this journey.
Absolutely. So, to all of our listeners, take a moment today to reflect, breathe, and take care of yourself. Life is a journey, and you deserve to enjoy the ride while also finding time for rest and growth. Thank you for joining us today on the English Hour. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll be back next time with more insightful conversations. Stay tuned, and take care. Before we wrap up, Jacob, I think there's one more thing we should touch on. As we're talking about self-care and balance, how do you think we can create a sustainable routine that includes both productivity and rest?
That's a fantastic question, Sophia. I believe that creating a sustainable routine starts with knowing your own limits and respecting them. It's easy to get caught up in trying to do everything at once, but the key is to make small, consistent changes. I always start by setting priorities, what absolutely needs to get done today, and what can wait. Once I have my priorities set, I try to break my day into manageable chunks.
That's such a smart approach. By setting priorities, you focus your energy on what matters most and give yourself the chance to breathe without feeling overwhelmed. How do you make sure there's room for rest in that routine?
I love that you mentioned that, Sophia. For me, I try to schedule breaks just like any other task. I set a timer for short bursts of focused work, and then when that timer goes off, I give myself a solid break. Even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes to stretch or take a walk, I find that it helps clear my mind and refresh my energy. I've also started blocking out certain times in my day just for relaxation or hobbies, things that aren't related to work or productivity. It's important to have those moments that aren't goal-oriented.
I think that's a huge part of it. Often, we feel like every moment has to be productive, but rest, hobbies, and relaxation are actually part of the equation too. They give us the space we need to recharge and come back with fresh ideas and energy.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best work happens when you step away from the desk or take a break from your usual routine. It's like letting your brain rest so it can process everything better later on. Creativity and ideas flow more easily when we're not constantly in go mode.
That's so true. We often underestimate the power of stepping back. It's like when you're stuck on a problem sometimes. The solution comes when you stop trying to force it and give your mind a chance to wander.
Exactly. The brain needs time to rest and process. That's when the breakthroughs happen when you least expect it. That's why it's important to trust the process and not beat yourself up if things aren't coming together immediately.
Such a good reminder, trusting the process is key. And I think, with the way you're describing it, creating a routine isn't about being rigid or controlling every minute. It's about balancing effort and ease, work and rest, to create a flow that feels natural and sustainable.
Exactly. And that balance is personal. What works for me might not work for someone else, and that's totally okay. The key is to experiment and find a routine that fits your own rhythm. Some people may need more rest, while others may thrive on long work sessions. It's about finding what works best for you.
That's such a great point. I think once we stop comparing ourselves to others and start tuning into our own needs and limits, we can craft a routine that truly supports us. And, as you said, it's all about balance and experimentation.
Exactly. It's all about finding that harmony between effort and relaxation. When you find your own rhythm, everything else falls into place more easily.
Jacob, this conversation has been so insightful. You've really given us some fantastic tips for creating a sustainable routine and balancing work with self-care. Thank you for sharing all this wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Sophia. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, and I hope our conversation can inspire others to create a balanced and healthy routine for themselves.
I'm sure it will. To all of our listeners, remember, you don't have to be perfect, just take small steps to find what works for you. Embrace your rhythm and give yourself the time to rest, grow, and enjoy the journey. Thank you for tuning in to the English Hour today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time with more conversations to inspire and uplift. Take care, everyone. Before we wrap up fully, Jacob, one last thing I'd like to ask. What advice would you give to someone who feels like they're constantly overwhelmed and can't seem to find their balance?
That's such an important question, Sophia. For anyone feeling overwhelmed, my first piece of advice would be to slow down and take a deep breath. It's easy to feel like you have to tackle everything at once, but the truth is, no one can do it all in a single day. Start small. Identify one thing you can do today to make things easier, whether it's asking for help, setting a boundary, or just taking a break. And remember, it's okay to ask for support.
That's such an important reminder. Asking for help doesn't make you weak. It just makes you human. It's all about recognizing that we can't do everything alone. And that's completely okay.
Exactly. And I also think it's really helpful to establish boundaries, both with others and with yourself. Knowing when to say no and when to give yourself permission to step back can make a world of difference. We all have limits, and respecting those limits is key to maintaining long-term balance.
Yes, boundaries are so powerful. They give us the space we need to take care of ourselves and avoid burnout. And it's so important to not feel guilty about it. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect.
Absolutely. And when you establish boundaries, it's not about pushing people away, but rather creating the space to be your best self. By doing that, you can show up for others in a much more meaningful way.
I love that perspective. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about making sure you're whole and well enough to be present for those who matter most.
Exactly. And lastly, I'd say that self-compassion is key. We're our own harshest critics, but we need to remember that we're doing our best. If you make a mistake or if you can't keep up with everything, be kind to yourself. Self-compassion goes a long way in helping you bounce back.
That's such a beautiful message. We often forget that self-compassion is just as important as working hard. It's all about being patient with yourself and recognizing that progress doesn't always look the way we expect it to.
That's right. And progress isn't always linear. Sometimes, the most important growth happens when we take a step back and recharge. It's about giving yourself the grace to pause and then come back stronger.
Jacob, this has been an incredible conversation. I feel like we've covered so many valuable points about creating balance, staying grounded, and being kind to ourselves. Thank you for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you, Sophia. It's been a pleasure to chat with you, and I hope our listeners take away something that helps them on their own journey. Remember, balance is achievable. It's all about finding what works for you.
Exactly, and to all of our listeners, we want you to remember that it's okay to take your time, establish boundaries, and be kind to yourself. You don't have to do it all at once. One step at a time is enough. Thanks for tuning in to the English Hour. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back next time with more insightful discussions. Take care and be well. Everyone. Jacob. while we're talking about balance, it makes me wonder, how do you stay motivated when things feel like they're getting tough?
That's a great question, Sophia. For me, staying motivated during tough times really comes down to reminding myself of why I started in the first place. When the work feels overwhelming or the path seems unclear, I try to reconnect with the purpose behind what I'm doing. It could be a personal goal, a dream I'm working toward, or simply knowing that what I'm doing is meaningful.
I love that idea, reconnecting with your why. Sometimes, we can get so wrapped up in the today that we forget why we started in the first place. But reflecting on that purpose can reignite your motivation, especially during the tough moments.
Exactly, and I also think it's helpful to break big goals into smaller, more manageable steps. It's easy to feel discouraged when you're looking at a massive project or a long journey ahead, but if you focus on taking one small step at a time, it becomes much more achievable. Even little wins can be powerful in keeping you motivated.
That's such an important point. Focusing on small wins helps build momentum. Plus, celebrating those wins, no matter how small, can give you the energy to keep going. It's like you're feeding that motivation to grow.
Yes, even if it's something as simple as finishing a task you've been putting off, taking a moment to acknowledge that accomplishment can boost your confidence. It reinforces the idea that progress is happening, even when it feels slow.
Right? And progress, no matter how slow, still counts. I think many people fall into the trap of thinking they need to make huge leaps every day. But little progress is still progress. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And I think that's where the concept of self-compassion also comes in. When you're not constantly beating yourself up for not moving faster, it's easier to keep going and stay motivated. You start to appreciate the small steps along the way, rather than only focusing on the big goal.
I think that's the key to sustainable motivation, recognizing that it's okay to have moments where things aren't perfect. The important part is just continuing to move forward, even if it's at a slower pace.
Absolutely. And sometimes, if I'm really feeling stuck or demotivated, I'll switch things up. Sometimes taking a break from the usual routine, doing something creative, or even just going for a walk helps reset my mind. It's amazing how a little change of scenery or a short mental reset can help spark new motivation.
That's a really good strategy. It's like giving yourself permission to step away for a moment to recharge, which can ultimately make you more productive when you return to your work. Plus, changing the environment can give you a fresh perspective on things.
Exactly, a change in scenery can also help you think outside the box. It's like shaking off the mental clutter that builds up when you've been focused on something for too long. Sometimes, taking that step back is all it takes to find clarity.
I think that's where a lot of people miss the mark. They push through when they feel stuck, thinking they need to work harder or longer, when what they really need is a mental reset. It's about working smarter, not harder.
You're absolutely right. Pushing through when you're feeling mentally fatigued can often lead to burnout. But when you give yourself a break and come back with a fresh mind, you can be so much more effective. It's not about working non-stop, it's about working with intention and energy.
It's such a balancing act, isn't it? Balancing productivity with rest, motivation with self-compassion. But I think once you get the hang of it, it's like finding a rhythm that works for you. Everyone's rhythm is different, but once you find yours, it feels like everything just clicks.
Absolutely. And part of that is understanding that there will be days when things don't go according to plan, and that's okay too. Being flexible with yourself and your expectations is key to finding that rhythm. Sometimes you have to adjust your approach or your goals, but that doesn't mean you've failed, it just means you're adapting and learning.
I love that. Adapting is such a crucial skill. Life is constantly changing, and being able to pivot and adjust helps you stay grounded, even when things don't go as expected.
Exactly. And I think that's where the growth happens, when you're able to adapt and learn from those moments of challenge. It's in those moments that you build resilience, and resilience is what allows you to bounce back stronger.
You're so right. Resilience is what enables us to keep going, even when things seem tough. It's that inner strength that helps us rise after setbacks and keep pushing forward.
And I think it's important to recognize that resilience isn't something you're born with, it's something you build over time. Each challenge, each setback helps you develop that strength. So, even if you're facing a tough time now, it's all part of the process of becoming more resilient.
That's such an empowering thought. It's reassuring to know that even in our hardest moments, we're building something within ourselves. And that resilience will carry us through to better days.
Exactly. And the more you build resilience, the easier it becomes to handle future challenges. You start to trust yourself and your ability to get through anything that comes your way.
That's a beautiful note to end on, Jacob. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today. This conversation has been incredibly valuable. And I know our listeners will take so much away from it.
Thank you, Sophia. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I hope everyone listening feels inspired to embrace balance, self-compassion, and resilience in their own lives.
Absolutely. And to all of our listeners, remember, take it one step at a time. And don't forget to be kind to yourself along the way. You've got this. Thanks for tuning in to the English Hour. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back soon with more inspiring conversations. Take care, everyone. Before we wrap up completely, Jacob, there's one more thing I'd love to ask. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling to find their motivation right now? Any tips for getting back on track?
That's a great question. I think the first thing I would say is don't be too hard on yourself. Motivation ebbs and flows, and it's completely normal to have times where you don't feel as driven. When you're in that space, I would recommend starting small. Sometimes, the biggest obstacle is the idea of tackling a large task, so breaking it down into smaller, manageable pieces can make it seem less overwhelming.
That's so true. The thought of a huge project can paralyze you, but breaking it down makes it more approachable. Plus, each small accomplishment can boost your confidence.
Exactly. And another thing I would suggest is finding something that you enjoy doing, something that reignites your passion. It could be a creative outlet, a hobby, or even something simple like going for a walk in nature. Doing something you love can give you the energy to refocus and find your motivation again.
That's such a good point. Sometimes, taking a step away from your main goal and allowing yourself to enjoy something else can give you a fresh perspective when you return. It's all about balance, isn't it?
Absolutely. And one more tip I would offer is to surround yourself with people who inspire and support you. Sometimes, just having a conversation with someone who's passionate about their work or hearing about their journey can spark that motivation in you. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk to others.
I couldn't agree more. Having a support system or even just connecting with someone who gets where you're coming from can make all the difference. It helps remind you that you're not alone in this journey.
Exactly. And even if you can't be around someone in person, there are so many ways to connect online, whether through social media or joining communities that share your interests. It helps to see that others are going through similar experiences.
Absolutely. Thank you for all this valuable advice, Jacob. I'm sure our listeners will find it super helpful as they navigate their own journeys toward finding motivation and balance.
It's been a pleasure, Sophia. I'm glad I could share some of these tips. And to everyone out there, remember it's okay to take things one step at a time. You've got everything you need to get through it.
Perfectly said. Jacob, thank you again for being here today. And to our listeners, remember to be patient with yourselves and celebrate the small wins along the way. We'll see you all in the next episode of the English Hour. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay motivated, and take care. Before we say goodbye for real, Jacob, I've been thinking, what's one small habit or change that you've incorporated into your life that has made a big impact on your motivation?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd say for me, it's starting my day with something I enjoy, like reading or listening to a podcast. It's a small win to begin the day with something that sparks my interest and creativity. It sets a positive tone for the rest of the day and gives me that little boost to keep going.
I love that. It's such a simple habit. But it makes such a difference in setting the tone for your day. It's almost like you're filling your cup first, before pouring into others or your tasks.
Exactly, it's a moment just for me before I dive into everything else. I think the key is to find something that brings you joy or peace, something that gives you that little extra energy to start your day off right.
That's such a great way to look at it, starting your day with something that fills you up, so that you can give your best to everything else. I think I might try that myself.
Definitely, it's been a game changer for me. It's helped me become more focused, and it also prevents me from getting too caught up in the chaos of the morning rush. When I do something I enjoy first, I feel more grounded and less stressed when I start working.
I can imagine that it would make a huge difference in terms of mindset. You know, another habit I've found helpful is setting small, achievable goals for the day. It helps me stay on track and feel like I'm making progress, even if the goals are as simple as answering a few emails or taking time for self-care.
That's such a great habit, Sophia. Setting small, attainable goals can really make a huge difference. It helps you avoid feeling overwhelmed by everything you need to do, and each small task completed is a step closer to the bigger picture.
Exactly. And I think it's so satisfying to check off those smaller tasks. It's like a little reward for each win, which keeps the momentum going.
It's that feeling of accomplishment that fuels the next step. It's like a snowball effect. The more you check off, the more motivated you feel to tackle the next thing.
And there's something really powerful about seeing that progress, even if it's just a list of small tasks. It shows you that you're moving forward, and that's what counts.
Absolutely. And if I ever find myself feeling stuck, I take a moment to pause and reflect on how far I've come, whether it's a big goal or small task completed. Sometimes we're so focused on what's next that we forget to appreciate how much we've already achieved.
I love that. It's important to acknowledge your progress, no matter how small it seems. It's a reminder that you're making strides, even if it's not always obvious at the time.
Exactly. And I think that mindset shift is what helps you stay motivated in the long run. If you focus on how much you've grown, instead of how much more there is to do, it's easier to stay positive and energized.
It's all about perspective, isn't it? How you view your journey can completely change your experience. Instead of focusing on what's left, celebrating what you've done can be a huge motivator.
Absolutely, it's like taking a step back and saying, wow, look at all that I've accomplished. That recognition helps you keep going, even when the road ahead seems long.
And sometimes, it's about being kind to yourself and giving yourself credit, even when things aren't perfect. Perfectionism can be such a motivation killer.
Oh, 100%. Perfectionism can paralyze you. I used to get caught up in making everything perfect before moving on, but I've learned that done is better than perfect. Progress, even imperfect, is still progress.
That's such an important lesson. Waiting for everything to be perfect can actually slow you down. Sometimes, you just have to keep going. Even if things aren't ideal, you'll learn along the way.
Exactly. And that's how growth happens, through action, not perfection. The more you practice, the better you get, and the less you worry about making everything flawless.
I think that's something we all need to hear. Perfection isn't the goal, progress is. It's about moving forward, learning from the process, and being okay with the imperfections along the way.
Exactly. And as long as you're taking steps in the right direction, you're on the right path. It doesn't matter how slow you go as long as you're moving forward.
I love that. Slow progress is still progress, and it's about trusting that every step you take is leading you to where you need to be.
Absolutely. And sometimes those slower steps lead to the most solid, long-term progress because they're built on a strong foundation. Rushing to the finish line can make you miss important lessons along the way.
That's such a good point. It's the journey, not just the destination, that teaches us the most. The challenges, The setbacks, they all shape us into who we're meant to be.
Exactly. And embracing that journey with all its ups and downs makes the destination even sweeter when you finally get there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Jake, I think we've covered so much ground today, and I hope everyone listening can take away some of these valuable lessons about motivation, progress, and embracing the journey.
I hope so too. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you, Sophia. I know our listeners will walk away with some helpful insights to keep them motivated in their own journeys.
It's been wonderful having you here, Jacob. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, progress is progress, no matter how slow, and perfection is not the goal, growth is. Keep moving forward, and we'll be back with another episode soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.